Hey everybody, welcome to Coffee Chat. You will notice that I am missing someone very important. Lindsay is not here. Unfortunately, she didn't have cell coverage at the moment. And so it's me. I'm alone, solo Coffee Chat this morning. I saw Blaze in the comments earlier and then it disappeared. But I think Blaze is here. Hi, Blaze. And Jen is here. Hi, Jen. In the middle of making licorice ice cream the old-fashioned way. That sounds amazing. And we'll pop into the chat as I can. So welcome. Put a comment in the chat. If you have any questions, any topics you want to chat about, please put them in the chat because I don't have my Lindsay to bounce off of. When we get to talking, the two of us can just go and go and go. And so when she's not here, I need you guys to be my co-host and give me ideas to chat about. Evelyn is here. Hello, Evelyn. And Risa is here. Hi, Risa. Welcome. My coffee this morning is coffee. My drink this morning is coffee with cream, and I was a little bit heavy-handed with the cream this morning, so it's a little lighter than my normal, but it's delicious. Sometimes it's nice to just have an extra creamy cup of coffee. Sing It is here. Hello. You heard me say what was in my cup. Yeah. Oh, did you miss it? No, I'm just saying it right now. I just said it. Maybe you did miss it, but it's coffee, extra creamy coffee this morning because, so I use a scale to weigh my coffee. I use my kitchen scale all the time in the kitchen. It's one of my most used kitchen appliances, if you can call it that, because I measure everything with it. Even when I'm not like obsessively tracking calories, I still will use it. And I use it with my cream. So I set my coffee on the scale, zero it out, and then pour the cream in because I want to get about the same amount and I don't want to get a measuring spoon dirty. And so the scale, it just is so easy. It's like the easiest way to measure things as long as you know what you're going for as far as weight. And so, but sometimes I just like my brain is not connecting and I just pour and then I'm like, oh, wow, that was more than I expected. And I know that like when I don't do that, when I don't use the scale, I'll get more heavy-handed as time goes on. And eventually I'm like using way more cream than I anticipated. But like my body gets used to it. So anyways, it's always helpful for me to use the scale because it does give me accurate results. And then also it keeps me honest. Let's see. Evelyn says, oh, my last afternoon live as I start school next week. And it's so sad. No, Lindsay, I know. She just, hit me with that this morning. And I didn't have enough time to find another co-host because usually, if she's not here, it's like I'll at least find someone to take her place. And I mean, obviously no one is Lindsay. Lindsay is, a special, unique butterfly in and of herself. But just to have a co-host is nice. But it was a little short notice. So just me today. So we probably will not go the full hour unless you really get me going on some topic. It'll probably be a little bit quicker than normal. I still have that nasally sinus thing going on. I was sick a week and a half ago now. I got sick. My husband brought a cold home from his trip, and then I got it shortly after that. And like I'm pretty much better. Like for the last week, I've been feeling better, but I just can't get rid of that tiny little last bit of sinus stuff. So I still feel it and I still hear it in my voice, and it's not fun. Let's see. Oh, Blaze, you are still here. Bummer that Lindsay doesn't have coverage. I know. She's probably off doing something super fun and awesome. And I wish we were all there too. Patty is here. Hello. Risa says, I've had my normal coffee this afternoon, and now I have iced coffee with stevia. That sounds really good. Okay, so while I was on my trip, at one point I bought iced coffee, cold brew coffee, and had a jug of that just for like when I didn't have a way to brew my coffee and I still wanted some. It was easy just to have an iced coffee, and it was really delicious. Like I really like cold brew coffee with some cream in it. And I enjoyed it on the trip. And then when we got home a little while after, I bought another jug because I was like, oh, that was so nice. I'm going to buy another one. And I have not been able to like find a time to drink it just because when I have, my coffee hot available, I just don't. That's always what I go for, and I've been trying not to have caffeine later in the day. So sometimes I might have a iced coffee at like 3 p.m., but I'm trying not to have it that late these days, because I've been tracking my sleep and all of that. And so I have this jug of cold brew coffee in the fridge, and I just haven't used it, and I need to use it. I need to force myself to have it like mid-morning or something until it's gone because I don't want to waste it. Yes. So Blaze, we have it set up so that the chat streams to both of our channels. And I forgot to ask her if she wanted me to like not stream it on her channel. Because I can, deselect it and have it not stream, but I didn't want to do that if she wanted it. Anyways, she can delete the video afterwards if she doesn't want it on there, just me by myself. But yeah, it's still set up to stream on both channels. That's just the way we have it. We have a restream account or whatever. So anyways, it's just how it's set up. Okay. Jenny has a question. Let's see. I have a question. I was wondering why you didn't have your thyroid antibodies checked when you did your blood work last. I didn't have them checked when I did my blood work last because I had them checked at the beginning of my thyroid issues and they were all negative. So that pretty much ruled out the possibility that my hyperthyroid was because of Graves' disease or Hashimoto's or some other autoimmune issue. So it seems pretty clear at this point that the hyperthyroid was due to the just excess iodine. And it seems like now that my body has worked through that, that I'm pretty stable. So I'm not having antibodies that are causing the excess of thyroid hormones. The whole antibody thyroid thing is so fascinating. I didn't have a really good concept of how all of that worked, but basically for Graves' disease is the autoimmune disease that causes hyperthyroidism. So there was a real possibility at the beginning that that's what I had, and we had to, do the tests to find out. But in Graves' disease, the antibody that your immune system produces looks the same as TSH, which is thyroid stimulating hormone. And your pituitary gland makes the thyroid stimulating hormone so that it keeps, your thyroid hormone at a balanced level. And so when you don't have enough thyroid hormone, the TSH is produced and it stimulates your thyroid to produce thyroid hormone. So this antibody that's produced in Graves' disease looks the same as TSH. So you're getting these antibodies. So when you have this high level of these antibodies, these specific ones, it's telling your thyroid, it's stimulating your thyroid to produce the thyroid stimulating hormone until it produces way too much. So crazy. Like, what the heck? So unhelpful immune system. But anyways, those antibodies for me were low and negative, like low enough that it was a negative test showing that I don't have that autoimmune is not the reason for my hyperthyroid symptoms. So hopefully that answers that question. Yeah, so it's just not something that I have to get tested all the time. It would be helpful every once in a while, especially if I start having the symptoms again. We'll probably test again because, things can change and thyroid or autoimmune stuff can pop up. But at this point, it's not something we're watching because it's not a concern. Uncle Big Guy, hello. Hope all are doing well. Sing It says, you've got this, Neely. Do you have granola type solutions for colds? Has low carb keto carnivore lessened the household sicknesses? Sure that homeschooling helps. Yeah, homeschooling does help. I remember when the kids were younger, we first started doing a co-op after several years of not doing a co-op, and we were sick like every other week for the longest time. It was so obnoxious. My hair is really bothering me. Um anyways, there it is. Yeah, so but I always try to, remind myself when we do get colds that every time we get a cold, it is strengthening our immune system and ultimately it's a good thing. Whatever doesn't kill us makes us stronger, as the saying goes. So, anyways, I actually had not gotten a cold. Like colds had gone through the house for like this last year. Every once in a while, a cold will go through the house, and I have not gotten sick in probably a year. I kept being like, "What the heck?" When because cold after cold would come through, not often, but just normal amount every few months or so, and I would just never ever get it. And finally, this one just took me out. And so I have been taking Armor Colostrum for quite a long time, and the timing correlates with taking the colostrum and not getting as sick as often. Now, is that definitely a causation? Obviously not. Correlation does not equal causation. But the timing lines up enough that I'm like, maybe that Armor Colostrum really did help. And I had stopped taking it. I hadn't been as consistent with it. I ran out, and I hadn't been as consistent with it for like at least a month, maybe 2 months before I got sick. And so I don't know. I'm not going to make any kind of claims at all, but I just know that it correlated. That's it. So, anyways, I am back on it now because I'm like, well, I think I probably should just keep on it. So I'm back on it now. So hopefully that if that's the thing that was keeping me from getting sick, that maybe that'll help. So anyways, there's that. I do as far as low carb keto carnivore, I've been in the realm of low carb for 20 years now. I mean, it was 20 years ago that I did more than 20 years ago that I started the Atkins diet. And so I've been low carb and then paleo. I don't think I've ever really gone back to high carb, like multiple hundreds of grams of carbs per day. So I don't really have that to compare. But, so I can't really, I'm sure it has, but it's just so hard to think back how I was 20 years ago is so different from where I am now when I was 20 versus now when I'm 40. So I think it probably does, but it's really hard to say. Um, yes, didn't realize before about the antibodies. Yeah, so yeah, I'm glad that I cleared that up because so apparently autoimmune, the Graves' disease accounts for like 90% of hyperthyroid. And so when, I told my doctor I had all these symptoms and she's like, "Yeah, that's hyperthyroid." It was like, "You probably have Graves' disease." And that's like the first thing we went down. And so, you know, I'm thankful that that wasn't it because that's something that doesn't just go away. There's obviously ways to manage the symptoms and manage flares and things like that. But if you have an autoimmune disease, you have an autoimmune disease. It doesn't just you can't just get rid of it. But because it seems like, and I can't say for sure, but it seems like my hyperthyroid was just due to the iodine supplementation. The hope is that just, not overdosing on iodine anymore, eventually my body will balance out and be able to be fine. There are people that say that iodine it can be inherently damaging to the thyroid. So that you don't ever get back to normal, or it can damage it to the degree that the thyroid is just damaged, and I may not completely be fixed just by avoiding iodine in the future. That's just, it's like only time will tell. So far, so good. 2 tests in a row, I've been in the green on all of my thyroid numbers, and that's without medication. So I'm hopeful that I'm on the right track, and that things are balancing out, and that my body will be able to handle it on its own here on out. But it's one of those things where you just have to wait and see. And my doctor did say that if you're a person that tends toward hyperthyroidism, that you can just kind of go in and out of it, like as the levels fluctuate. And so she has, so I have some of the medication that I use to lower my thyroid hormones, like on hand. I'm not taking it, but I have it on hand. I also have like a herbal tincture that helps with thyroid calming. It's called thyroid calming. And so she said, if I ever start feeling those symptoms of hyperthyroidism, just go ahead and take one of those two, either the tincture or the pharmaceutical, and just take like a really low dose for like 5 days. And that hopefully will take care of it. If it doesn't take care of it after 5 days, then I need to go in and get my numbers tested and do some more treatment. But the issue is with hyperthyroidism, the state of being in hyperthyroid, where your different systems of your body are on overdrive, your metabolism, your heart rate, all these different things are on overdrive. It is really, really quickly damaging to especially your heart. And so it's one of those things where you don't want to play with it. Like, you don't want to just let it go or try to work it out. Like, when when my doctor was working with me when I was in that really severe hyperthyroid state, she like, because I had asked about like the natural, like the herbal stuff, like, is that a good option? And she basically said it's not as effective as the pharmaceutical. And this state that you're in is so inherently damaging to your bodily systems, especially your heart, that we don't want to mess with it. We want to do whatever is the absolute most effective as quickly as possible to get this under control. And so now that we've done that and we've got it under control, now to keep it under control using those herbal remedies and the tinctures that are effective. They're just not as quickly effective as the pharmaceuticals. Now that's a good option. So I'm keeping an eye on all of my symptoms. I will take those things if I have those symptoms cropping up. And she did say during times of stress, that's when, you can see more symptoms cropping up, which I definitely have noticed. When I have stressful times, that's when I see my heart rate shooting up, and I get, the insatiable hunger and, all those different symptoms that go along with hyperthyroidism. So just that's like my maintenance plan at this point, is to have all those things on hand, pay attention to my symptoms, and then, take action as needed. And I'm really really thankful for the tracking options that I have right now. Like, it was on my Fitbit that I first noticed, like, my heart rate going up, because it happens, gradually. It happens slowly, and so you don't really notice it from day to day until you have the data right there in front of you. And so that was really helpful. And then also, I've talked on here before about my ultra human ring that I am testing right now. It's I've had it for, I think, about 6 weeks now, and I'm working on a review video for that. But it tests all kinds of things like HRV and heart rate and temperature and like all kinds of things. And I'm realizing how important that is for, my ongoing keeping my health under control. Because I would use my Fitbit for, tracking my steps, and that's about it. Like, tracking my steps and making sure I was getting enough activity. But then I really have delved a lot deeper into the health metrics on there as well, and finding that for me, for just the stuff that I'm going through, that's going to be really important. And it's really amazing the technology we do have right now, to be able to do that. Because like, at what other time in history could you have all of that stuff at your fingertips at any given moment? Like, that's just crazy. But I'm finding that um, it's going to be really important for me for my health, especially because, and this goes into like some psychological things. It's so hard to just listen to your body. And we've talked about listening to your body on coffee chats before, and just how it it's just difficult to piece out what to listen to and what not to listen to, and like preconceived notions and things like that. Like back when I discovered that I had very low ferritin, I had convinced myself that because of the healthy diet that I had, that I was fine. And I didn't allow myself to really think about and accept all of the really bad symptoms I was experiencing until I saw that number on the test result that was like, Wait a minute, this number does not align with how I think I feel." And then as soon as I started like looking into all the symptoms that go along with iron deficiency, I was like, I am experiencing all of those symptoms. But for whatever reason, because I had these blinders on, these healthy diet blinders where I'm like, I'm eating ketovore. I I'm eating all this meat. Like, there's no reason I should have iron deficiency. So it's like I had this mental block of not being able to accept or realize or articulate these symptoms that I was having until like I was hit with the number, the facts on the piece of paper saying, "No, this is where you're at right now." And then it kind of all hit me like a ton of bricks, like, yeah, I actually feel really terrible. And then I was able to work on it, and I've gotten like, to such a better place, with my health where is. And so, all that to say, having that data, it's not without, obstacles. Like, having a lot of data can cause more stress about certain things, but ultimately, for me, it's been really, really important and really helpful for me to, have the hard data as well as look at my symptoms and how I feel, and, like, just be able to have those work together to help me figure out my health issues. So, there you go. Let's see. Rickwin is here. Hello. Sing it. Children are petri dishes with hands and feet. Absolutely. But we got to keep remembering every time they get a cold, it's strengthening their immune system. And so ultimately it's good. Got to get through it. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Progress and Transformation is here from New York City. Hello. Oh, Risa says, my mother has Graves' disease. It was awful. She had serious thyroid issues. I do not, thankfully. That's amazing. Yeah, because a lot of times autoimmune diseases can be genetic. And so very thankful that you don't have that. It is like, I learned a lot about it, especially when I thought, that's what I had. And it is really scary. And hypothyroid is, I think, a lot more common for a lot of different reasons, not just autoimmune, and it has all kinds of negative health ramifications, of course. But hyperthyroidism is just so inherently damaging to your heart. It can just cause so many problems. And the other thing that I didn't realize too is that it causes like brain stuff as well, where people say that their personalities change and it really messes with you. So that's not something to play around with. I remember thinking like, back in the day when you're trying to lose weight, when I was trying to lose weight, um, and you learn about hypothyroid because everyone's like, "Oh, you might have underactive thyroid if you can't lose weight." And so you're like, "I hope that's the thing." it can be fixed. And then you hear about hyperthyroidism when you're studying hypothyroidism, and it's like, oh, you lose weight without trying, blah blah blah. And I remember thinking like, oh man, that would be a great problem to have. What? Why do I have to? And I never had hypothyroidism either, but I was like, why? How great would it be to have this issue where you just lose weight without trying? And let me tell you, after having experienced it, it is 100% not worth it. It's horrible, absolutely horrible. And then the weight loss, from what I've seen and what I've experienced and what I've seen in like Facebook groups and stuff, the weight loss typically doesn't stay off when you get yourself balanced out. Like from most of what I read, of people's anecdotal experiences when they would lose weight during the hyperthyroid time, but then as soon as they got on the medication, as soon as they got their thyroid numbers numbers down, they would gain at least the weight back that they lost, and then a lot of people just gain way more. So I'm really thankful that I didn't do that. Like at least I just gained back what I had lost while I was hyper. And then actually since being balanced for a little while, my weight has started to come back down again. So I'm almost back down to where I was with the weight loss that I had lost while hyper. But it did come back initially. And then as I've balanced out, it's come back down. So yeah, it's messed up. And experiencing the hunger is intense because a lot of people, when they go hyperthyroid, they gain weight. And because you just think hyperthyroidism is lose weight because your metabolism is on overdrive, but actually a lot of people do gain weight. And after having experienced the incredibly insatiable hunger that comes along with hyperthyroidism, I 100% understand gaining weight, because if I had that insatiable hunger and I was eating the standard American diet, I definitely think I would have packed on lots of weight. Because it was it was very frustrating to eat a giant meal and then an hour later have a growling stomach like you didn't eat anything. Like it was such a mind trip, and I just felt like I was eating so much food. And then when I did start tracking with Jonathan, I really struggled because I felt like I was starving a lot of the time, even though I was eating a perfectly reasonable amount of food. It was just like my mind was on food all of the time and I was insatiable. And that is not a fun place to be. That is, oh, it's like I'm just so sick of thinking about food. And actually, now that my hormones are balanced and my thyroid levels are in a really good place, my appetite is so under control. Like I keep being like mind blown about it because it's so minimal. And I think that the conversation about food noise that has come from the Ozempic insanity, I think is actually a really good conversation, because food noise is a thing. Like, it really is, and I've experienced now different levels of different, hormones, thyroid hormones, as well as, just all the other hormones. It really can affect that food noise thing. And so, like, people talk about finding out what true hunger, like, is it just emotional hunger? Is it just, is it physical hunger? Like, we gotta just piece that out, and if we figure that out, then we only follow the physical hunger and we ignore the emotional hunger. I don't think I don't think it's that simple. I think emotional hunger is some kind of a food noise. Not that emotions aren't involved, I think, of course, they are, but have experienced just that emotional hunger going away at a different thyroid balance or a different hormone balance. And so I don't think it's only, my relationship with food that I'm, mentally have to deal with. I think hormones affect that food noise. And it's like It's just so mind-blowing to go from a place of thinking about food all of the time and never feeling satisfied to being one of those people that, like, takes a few bites of something, I'm like, "Okay, I'm full, I'm done." I'm not thinking about food anymore. Not just that my stomach is full, but that my mind isn't obsessed with it anymore. Like, that's 2 different things, and to have all of that noise be gone is just so crazy. It has been such a wild experience going through this whole roller coaster. Okay, let's see. Sing It says, "Any foods this week that made keto feel restricted? I am very happy when cherries go out of season." Oh, yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, because, during the winter, you probably don't feel restricted because you can't eat fresh cherries because they're not right there. So, yeah, when they go out of season, that probably makes it easier. Um Jennifer says, "Oh, to have a doctor who listens to you." Yes. Oh my gosh. Trusts you understand your body and at least take crunchy options into consideration. Yeah, it is pretty valuable. And I know it's not easy to come by. I found my doctor probably 10 years ago at least. Um, and I've stuck with her ever since. She has moved to I counted at one point how many different offices she's moved in the time that I've been seeing her, and it was, I don't know, like 6 or something, where I've just followed her everywhere she went. And the amazing thing is, she used to be out in Portland where we lived, and then she moved out to the country, and kept coming to see her. But then when we moved closer to her, so now we're both out in the country. Pretty it's not a far drive at all for me to go see her. So very, very thankful for that. And I wish everybody could have that. But it does take a lot of work to find. And so the way that I found her, I'll mention this real quick. The way that I found her way back when was back when the paleo diet was really big. And there was, and I think it's still around, the Paleo Physicians Network. It was a website that just had, a list of providers that somehow qualified. I don't even know how they did it. Somehow qualified for being on this list of paleo physicians that were open to that kind of thing. So she's not keto, she's not low carb, she's, like Weston A. Price, um, open to paleo, whole foods, that kind of thing. And so that's how I found her originally. Because I mean, it can just be such a shot in the dark to look up someone online, and you'd have to go through so many people to find someone that maybe aligns a little bit with your own values and things. So if you can find some kind of a network like that, the Paleo Physicians Network, I know there's some low carb doctor lists out there. I haven't had to use them since I've, had a doctor for a while, but definitely recommend just, starting there. It's not to say that every single person on that list is going to be perfect and amazing. You probably will still have to shop around a little bit, but it'll at least get you a start to know that you're not, going to a plant-based doctor that's gonna, push all kinds of things that you're really not excited about. So yeah, that would be my recommendation if you are looking for someone. And then, to find someone who takes your insurance and all of that is a whole other layer that I wish it was easier. Okay, so Sherry says, "Do you find the Fitbit better than Apple Watch to track your heart, steps, etc.?" So I've never had an Apple Watch. I have only had Fitbits. Like, I have been using Fitbits for maybe 15 years. Back when they were like one of the first on the market for a decent step counter, that, had an app and stuff that went with it. And so I've been using only Fitbits, and I've just upgraded every few years whenever I've needed to. So I can't say about the Apple Watch. The only thing I can compare it with is the Ultra Human Ring. And as far as just step counting, I think the Fitbit is probably more reliable than the Ring at this point, but the Ring, the Ultra Human brand, they're always getting better, and their activity portion of their product is under development. So it's not too, it's not as good as it's going to get, I think. And I do think it needs some work. So if you're just doing steps, I think the Fitbit is pretty good. As far as heart rate, it's really hard for I haven't delved into all of the different products and the reviews and the comparisons and like how they work, because I don't even really understand how they work. So I don't really know how to compare one to the other. Um, and I accept the information with a grain of salt, like it's giving me some information. It may not be 100% accurate every single number, but it's giving me a good um, baseline and shows me some ups and downs. And it has correlated, my Fitbit has correlated with how I feel. So I think it's accurate enough, I guess. But I really can't compare it to Apple Watch, or Garmin, or all of the other ones. There's a lot of them now. Um, and I just have always used the Fitbit, and I have stuck with it because I feel like it's been a good product for a lot of years. They sold to Google a while back, and so a lot of people are upset about how Fitbit is being Googleified, which I haven't really experienced any negatives yet at this point. But I'd be open to finding something different if it was better, but I haven't done the research and haven't found any reason to, buy something else at this point. Let's see. Let's see. This thing it says, so do you think this is a thing? Living in Ketoville, we just fool ourselves and don't listen to the signs just because it's supposed to work miracles. Healthy eating blinders. I do think that exists. I definitely don't think that everyone is like that. I think certain people are more susceptible to it than others. And certain, there are some people who go on keto and it fixes all of their problems. Like they are fixed. And that's amazing. But I do think there are a lot of other issues that can't be fully resolved through diet alone. And I do see a lot of people just going stricter and stricter and narrower and narrower. And this is my own story. So I'm one of them, that just continue to narrow and narrow. And if I just get my food more perfect, I will have better health. And I got to the point where my diet was as narrow as it's ever been. The foods that I couldn't eat it was like a massive list, things that made me feel terrible. And I could have kept going. I could have kept going to strict carnivore. I could have kept going to lion diet, but I was like, it it would be one thing if the narrower I got in my diet, the healthier I got. And I was like, oh, I see how I've gotten healthier all this way of this journey of narrowing my diet down to less and more restrictive. But I didn't. I saw symptoms and issues getting worse the more restrictive I got. And not all, because it's like when I first started restricting carbohydrates, I saw massive improvements in my blood sugar, in all kind of like my weight going down, like so many things got better initially when I started restricting, especially carbs in the beginning, and, reducing the inflammation in my diet. But I found that there was a point at which continuing down that restriction didn't continue to get my health better. My health actually started getting worse and worse. And it wasn't until I added a bunch of stuff back to my diet and did other things besides diet that I really was able to get my health to a better place. And the other things I did besides diet were work on my gut health, start exercising more, um, What else? So my talk at the Keto Chow meetup, I talked in my story section of that talk, I talked a lot about this. And so if you're interested in hearing all of that, definitely check out that video. And it has Lindsay's story in there as well as like kitchen tips and stuff. But the story section, I really talked about all of this stuff that I've been doing. So it's like for me, diet did a lot. It got me to a really good place with my blood sugar, my weight, a lot of good things. But we have this idea, especially as Americans in this Western world, that when some is good, more is better. So some restriction is good in my diet. Therefore, the more restrictive I get, the better I will get. For me, this is for me. I did not find that to be the case, and I actually, having worked on my gut and loosening up the restriction and actually bringing lots and lots of foods back, I feel way healthier now than I did when I was eating as when I mean, I did 3 months of full carnivore. I feel better now than I did during those 3 months. I feel better now than I did during the time when I was eating dairy-free ketovore, where it was real close to carnivore because I couldn't tolerate any hardly any plant foods, so I was eating very few plant foods. So it was real close to carnivore, it was dairy-free. I feel better now eating okay, I'm eating things that are anathema in the keto world. I'm eating beans. I'm eating potatoes. I'm eating rice. I'm eating lots of vegetables. I'm eating nuts and seeds. Now, not tons of them. My diet is still meat based. Protein is my number one priority, but including fruits, vegetables, even, those little bits of grains like some white rice every once in a while, my health is better now. And it's so funny because I'll get comments from people when I talk about this, that say, "You maybe feel better now, but just wait until XYZ eating all this stuff." And it makes me laugh because that is exactly the argument people give to keto people, saying, maybe you're losing weight now eating keto, but you're going to die of a heart attack because of all that saturated fat. Maybe you're feeling good now on keto, but you're going to have colon cancer eating all of that meat eventually. Just you wait. And people are saying the exact same thing to me when I say I'm feeling better now, including about 100 grams of carbs per day than I did when I was eating carnivore. And it's like there's this like I just can't reconcile that. And so I do think that there are blinders, definitely for people looking at other people like I've just been talking about. So people commenting saying, "No, carnivore is the best way to eat and the only way that humans are supposed to eat. Therefore, if you feel good, you're either lying to yourself or you're gonna feel bad later." I yeah, I think that's blinders, and I do think that people, can have that within themselves too, where they're like, "I'm eating the best diet. I'm eating the one that I was told is the proper human diet." Therefore, because I am doing the proper human diet, I must have the proper health to go along with it. And it definitely can be a blinder where it's like you don't let yourself look at the reality of the symptoms that you're experiencing. And that's not everybody. There are people that eat a carnivore diet, ketovore diet, and their health is amazing. Like, and I'm not saying this is everybody, but I definitely experienced that those blinders. That was for me, that was definitely a thing. And you know, just be self-aware, be open to the idea that it's a possibility. It may not be for you. It may be that, you're eating your keto, carnivore, whatever lifestyle, and your health is fantastic. And, keep doing it. Whatever is making your health fantastic, keep doing it. Reese has got to leave and gonna watch the replay. Let's see. Uh, Sherry says, "Thank you. My Fitbit would tell me if I was in AFib. I loved my Fitbit, but bricked it with swimming. Oh, that's a bummer. Need something new and was considering the Apple Watch." Yeah, so Lindsay has an Apple Watch, and so that would be interesting to ask her thoughts on it. I don't know that she can compare it though to I don't know if she's had a Fitbit before, so it's hard to know. There are lots of great comparison videos. There's, channels that love to look at all the details and compare everything. So you might just Google Apple Watch versus Fitbit or whatever, and that could get you some good info. Yes. Evelyn says, "I'm seeing so many influencers stop keto, but what I understand is that they are getting to a place where they are more metabolically healthy. At that point, adding whole foods back in is smart." I completely agree. Like the whole idea that if keto gives you good results, it must be the way that you have to eat forever. I it just I understand the desire for that. When you find something that works and gives you good results, then you're like, "I found it. That's it. This is what I'm doing for the rest of my life." Um, it's not necessarily true. Like we talk about so much on our coffee chats, how everyone is different, and you have to consider the state your body is in when you say this diet is good or this thing is bad. It's like there was a point where peanut butter made me double over in crippling digestive pain. Clearly, at that point, for my body, peanut butter was bad. It was a bad thing. Now I can eat peanut butter with zero issues. Zero. And peanut butter is delicious. So it's like, if I can eat peanut butter with zero issues, like that is a win in my book. But there was a time when my diet, to be healthy, I needed to not have peanut butter for a time. But that doesn't mean that peanut butter is bad for me forever, or because it was bad for me then, it's bad for everyone for all time. It's like we have to take into account where our bodies are. And ultimately, my goal is to find ways to make my body more resilient so that a little bit of peanut butter doesn't destroy me. Eating a spoonful of white rice doesn't, make me sick. Like that seems really weak to me. And I'm not saying like if someone has severe autoimmune stuff, I mean, I think of Michaela Peterson, like eating something besides meat really destroys her. And so to live life, she chooses to eat meat, and I 100% respect that. But then at the same time, she says, if I could eat other things, I would. If you can eat other things, do it. Um, but her body is in whatever state that she just can't handle anything else besides meat. It's like, if you can get out of being in that state, do it, and she would if she could. Um, so yeah, I think when you do get more metabolically healthy, you can add more things, and we do live in kind of a crazy food environment here in America, so sometimes when people say, "Once I, heal with keto, then I'll add things back in," someone will look at that and say, "Oh, so you're just gonna go off and, eat cotton candy and burgers and fries and pizzas all the time, huh? Like, that's not healthy." And you're like, "Well, you don't have to add back everything." Add back what you like and what makes you healthy, keeps you healthy. And I even have evolved a little bit in my thinking about carbohydrate foods, whole carbohydrate foods, where it used to be like, and vegetables even. It used to be like when I was more bought into the whole idea of carnivore being the healthiest diet for humans, I would think, well, I understand that carnivore is the healthiest diet for humans, but I really like variety. I value variety. I value, socially being able to enter into, situations where people are eating other things. And so I'm going to sacrifice my perfectly healthy carnivore meal by having a little bit of vegetables or whatever else that's not meat. And it's worth it to me. And because my body's in a healthy enough place, my body can handle that little bit of unhealthy food. I understand that perspective. That's this perspective that I had. I don't have that perspective anymore. And like I've said so many times, my ideas and thoughts can change drastically from week to week. And so there may be a time where I come back and say, I was wrong. I think carnivore is the best diet, and I'm going to just live a carnivore lifestyle the rest of my life. Maybe that'll happen. I'm open to that happening. But where I'm at right now, having experienced negative health on a more and more and more restrictive diet, and then having experienced really good health and feeling amazing on a much more broad diet, I am now of the perspective that these other foods that are, certain plant foods are beneficial. I don't think that they're a negative that we can kind of handle because of our health is at a good enough place. I think they actually are a net positive if your body is at a healthy enough place to use them. Like you said, metabolically healthier, I think they do add benefit. Gut microbiome stuff, hormonal, the idea that carbs help with hormone production, all of that I've been working through with Jonathan Shane. Like, I don't think that they're just a neutral anymore that some people can handle and some people cannot. I think they're a net positive, but some people's bodies are in such a sick place, like mine was, that they cause problems. And so my goal is to get my body to a healthy enough place that I can consume those things and get the benefits from them, not cut them out because my body is in a sick enough place to feel that feels unwell when I eat them. I hope that makes sense. And like I said, I might change my mind in a month as, I grow and develop and learn new things, but that's where I currently am. All right, we are actually coming up on an hour here. You guys got me talking. Let's see. Um, do you think your issues were coming down the road and eating healthy let you see them clearly to work on the issues, or did being too restrictive cause the thyroid issues? Ooh, that's a good question. So I do think that um, thyroid um, the thyroid issues were caused by over-consuming iodine. Um, so I don't think that any of the eating that I was doing caused that. I bet if I was eating a standard American diet and I overconsumed iodine and had all of that symptoms on top of having a really, a standard American diet with lots of processed food and nutrient deficiencies and all of those things, I would have been in way worse shape than I was. Um, so I don't think that being too restrictive is the cause of the thyroid issue. I don't know that there would be a direct connection there. I do think, um, I think the cause of some of my other issues that have been resolved, like my nutrient deficiencies, like I was deficient in vitamin D, I was deficient in B12, I had severe rosacea. Um, what else? The iron, being low iron. I think those were influenced by poor gut health for sure. And so working on the gut health. So it was like the food was a non-issue. I mean, well, I don't want to say non-issue. The food was just a separate thing. I had bad gut health so that even no matter how healthy of food I ate, if your gut health is bad, you're not going to get everything you need from it. Now, having bad gut health and then eating garbage food on top of that is obviously going to make everything worse. but changing the food wasn't going to fix my root issues. I had to work on my gut health through things besides food in order to even get the benefits of the healthy food, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I always think about like with all these issues that I deal with, if I was still eating the standard American diet all these years, I would be a disaster. Like I would, because I know, how quickly I can gain weight on, sugar and fat together in the form of uh, processed junk food. And that on top of everything else, like is just crazy to even think about. So like the foundation of a healthy diet, and that healthy diet has the foundation of meat, is a huge part of my journey. And I don't want to undersell that, but it wasn't the only thing that fixed me. I don't know if that's a good way to say it or not. um yeah, iodine has been so popular in the last few years, and I mean, I value iodine. Iodine is important. It's just having gone through what I went through, it's like I have a lot more respect for it. I don't you know, hold it lightly. It powerful things are powerful for good and powerful for bad, depending on what you need and how much and all of that. Okay. Yes, Blaze. I believe that the proper human diet is real food, not processed junk food. Um, and I'm at the place where I believe that the proper human diet includes plant foods. Now, I know that Dr. Barry thinks that too. So, and he's the one that coined the term proper human diet. So, talking about his proper human diet, I think I still fall, well, maybe within that because I'm still around 100 grams of carbs per day, and he says 100 grams, up to 100 grams. Um, maybe there are maybe a few things that I choose to consume that he wouldn't consider part of the proper human diet, but I think I'm fairly close. But when there are other people that think the proper human diet is only ruminant animals and no salt. And like there's all kinds of, ideas about what the proper human diet is. But I do agree that the proper human diet is real food, and you kind of have to find your own um proportions of things within that. And for some people, because of where their health is at, their proper human diet is real food, only ruminant animals. And for other people, it's a lot more varied with the plant food, and you kind of have to figure out what your body needs, and that is not an easy thing to do. I'll tell you right now. uh let's see. Yeah, the I'm quitting keto clickbait. As if there's just keto and then something else. It's like I felt like I was doing keto, but then I kind of just, changed it a little bit. It's not like I went from keto to vegan. There's just this progression. They add one piece of fruit and call it quitting. Yeah, it's like, come on. It's not like you're going from, yeah, they treat it like it's as much as carnivore to vegan, like that extreme of a change. It's like, oh, come on. Um, let's see. Evelyn says, since Lindsay is not here, don't you have to go for 2 hours to make up for her absence? You know what? I didn't think of that logic, but that does make sense, actually. It does make sense. All right, I am going to hop off of here. Thanks for hanging out with me and for stimulating some good conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope I didn't offend anybody too terribly bad, but when you put yourself on YouTube, you just accept the possibility or the inevitability that you will offend at least somebody. So if you're offended, I apologize. Well, I should say I hope that you can get over being offended because there you go. All right, guys. We'll be back next week. Hopefully Lindsay will be here next week, same time, same place. And